I'm Andy Erwin, and this is The Storytellers. My guest on today's episode is a dear friend. He's an actor and producer, musician that we really, really love and admire. I remember when we were doing the movie I Can Only Imagine, we were on set and we had so much riding on that film, and it was something that we had risked a lot on, and we were already 3 weeks into production, and we were trying to figure out who was going to play Arthur, this father for Bart, the main character, and just such a pivotal role in the film. Needed to have gravitas, needed to be a household name, and we had not been able to find the right one, and just it was a moving train where we were getting closer and closer to that day that we had to film. And I was a nervous wreck most days. And I remember I was on set one night, and I remember our producing partner, Kevin Downs, running onto the set with his cell phone in the air saying, "I've got Dennis Quaid on the phone." And Dennis had read the script. He fell in love with the role. It was different than anything he had ever really played. And we had a phone call, and a few days later, he was flying to Oklahoma to do this role that became a really iconic role in his body of work, but also kind of launched what we do as storytellers. You know him from movies like The Right Stuff, The Rookie, The Parent Trap, The Day After Tomorrow, and of course, I Can Only Imagine. He's kind of like our Michael Caine around here. I can't do a movie without this guy. Would you please welcome our first guest, Dennis Quaid.
You're Michael Caine.
The Michael Caine, the non-British Michael Caine. See, we're from Alabama, so we keep it very blue collar. Right?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Hey, you've been out doing music this year. Your album
quite a
came
bit.
out.
Yes, my record came out, my gospel record called Fallen, a gospel record for sinners. But it's five of the songs I wrote, and then I have a Chris Christopherson cover, Why Me Lord, and the rest are hymns that I loved growing up in the Baptist church.
I watched it, like you were texting me when it was about to launch, and then it did really, really well. We were really proud of you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I think this is the first record I've ever put out that's hit the charts. So
That's awesome, man.
I'm kind of dumbfounded and really grateful.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of that music started for us, with you on I Can Only Imagine, and I know music's been a part of your life for a long time.
Well, in fact, that's where this record started.
Did it?
Yeah, because of being On My Way to Heaven, the song that you guys are very generous to include in the movie. From that, Gaither approached me about doing a gospel record.
That was a pivotal moment in our career, and you'd had several iconic movies before that, but for us, that was a big moment when you committed to it. What made you say yes to that film? Like, what was it that drew you in, and what makes you say yes to a film like that?
It was the story. That's the way it always kind of is with me, for the most part. But the story first, when I read a script, that's the only time I get to be an audience member with a first-time experience of that story. And so I thought there was just something about it that said, hey, you need to take this. And certainly talking to you guys, seal the deal on it. You had an enthusiasm, and I just wanted to say, and just said yes, and dove in.
The thing that people don't realize is, like, we had such a short time together, and they think we were making it for months together, but we had like 8 days.
Yeah, I think it was physically I was there for including the fitting for the wardrobe, like 10. 12, 13 days.
Yeah, it's like we get thrown into the middle of it.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a trust fall for both of us.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you're coming in hot, and and we're these young punk filmmakers, and we're trying to figure each other out. And it's like an awkward first date at first, where you're trying to figure out, like, what makes this person tick. But as you and I were comparing notes, there was that moment where we were trying to figure out who is this Arthur character. And you made the choice that, hey, I feel like I'm going to play him like a shook up bottle of soda pop, that he's this guy that's been abusive and doesn't want to be anymore and is trying to figure out a way out.
And you guys were great because it was fantastic working with you guys because it was kind of a relentless search for the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatever it was, even if you didn't have words for it, it just when you see it, you know it's the truth.
Yeah. Well, there was one moment like that we kind of, it's collaborative between us, but like the moment that was my favorite was when you're listening to the radio to your son sing, and you have that moment where we do we show it as you're dying, and you lean forward and you kind of have this moment of realization as you hear your son sing, and it's kind of that flashback moment. Well, we had filmed it once, and you had kind of gone to this really beautiful emotional place, and I said cut, and I said cut way too early, and then you just kind of composing yourself, you lean forward into the sunlight, and then we said, okay, let's go move on to the next scene. You went back to your trailer, and my brother turned to me, he's like, that moment was magic, and we didn't get it on camera where you lean forward. And he's like, can you go talk Dennis into coming back? And I kind of, with some fear and trepidation, I was like, okay, let's. Dennis,
he's finally gonna crack.
It's like, and this is right after we had you like destroy and beat up a car. So I'm like, I've seen the angry side. No, but I was like, hey man, there's magic that we left on the floor. This moment when you lean forward, can we do one more take and we just go there? And you did it, and that one take is what made it into the film. It's one of my favorite, most honest moments with the character. Oh. And I think that's really where the redemption of Arthur takes place, as you see that in his eyes and the unsaid. So it was like, the other thing that happened that was interesting as we got into it is when we found out you're playing Cloris Leachman's son in the film.
Right.
And 1975, your very first uncredited role,
right,
I found out was with Cloris.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, it was, I had just been in LA for like 2 weeks in 1975, and I went with my brother to a Jonathan Demme set. He was filming a movie. It was called Crazy Mama. And Donnie Most was in it from Happy Days. Uh-huh. And we're just standing around, and I think it was mentioned, I just gotten there and I was going to be an actor or what. And Jonathan Demme says, "Oh yeah, you want to you want to be in this?" I said, "Well, yeah,
sure.
Sure,
that's why I'm here."
So I wound up playing a bellhop, and about a week later, and Cloris and her family are checking into this. They're outlaws, and they're checking into the hotel, and they pull a gun or something like that. And I held the line, "Oh my God, oh my gosh, don't shoot me." And I'm wearing a bellhop uniform, and of course my line was deleted. That way they didn't have to pay me.
That's funny
because that was improvised. Anyway,
you're trying to squeeze it in there,
squeeze it in, talking thing. But it did get me into the L.A. Screen Actors Guild.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you're just like throwing out lines. Guy pulls the gun. You're like, "Oh, don't shoot me!
Don't shoot me!"
That's awesome. I love it.
This Jonathan Demme was my first role.
That's amazing.
Cool.
Well, like acting is kind of you kind of caught that bug from your dad, right, buddy? Like, didn't he?
Yeah.
But he's kind of tell me about that.
Yeah. My dad was a frustrated actor, and there was this family. I don't know if it was a true story or not, tell you the truth, but he was in World War II. He was in Los Angeles, I think, and he was approached by. He looked a lot like Dana Andrews, and there was two talent scouts who approached him about doing a screen test, but he had to ship out. So, it never happened. So, like I said, I don't know if it's true or not, but he would, he wouldn't put on, there would be movies on TV or Laurel and Hardy, and he'd say, watch this actor, turn me on like William Holden and those great movies from like, the 30s and the 40s and 50s. And also my cousin was Gene Autry.
I heard that. I thought that, I didn't know if that was true or not.
Yeah, it was my grandfather's first cousin, which made him my third.
Huh.
And so we had that, there was actually a member of the family who had gone out there and, made it.
Huh.
Gosh, he made it big.
Yeah, he did. For his day. I mean, he was huge.
Not even for his day. Gene Autry, as far maybe today's dollars, would be probably the richest entertainer of all time.
Huh.
I met him at the opening of Wyatt Earp. He was there.
Really?
Yeah, he was well into his 90s.
Wow. What was that? What was that moment like? I mean, you're on Wyatt Earp, you're doing a Western, your relative, your cousin, who's like, Western movie royalty, is there. Like, what was that moment like to kind of connect? Was it weird or was
it was a little weird because you're related to this person, but you kind of distantly so, and you really kind of I'm kind of proud of that because I bring it up a lot. I'm proud of that because he was a very talented songwriter.
Yeah,
and I'm a songwriter myself. I'm a songwriter actor, just like he was.
That's in your blood.
Yeah.
So when you decided, like, Houston, Texas, you and your brother Randy decided to kind of chase this acting thing. Like, when was that, like, that became like, a reality that, hey, this is something we're really going to do? And I heard a rumor that you auditioned for Dukes of Hazzard back in the day.
Yeah. Well, it was really, in when we got to be teenagers, and Randy was, first, he was 4 years older.
Yep.
And he got into drama in high school.
Sure.
And there was a teacher there, Mr. Pickett, at the high school. But by the time I got to high school, Mr. Pickett had moved on to college, and Randy had followed him there. And I was going to be a veterinarian. That's what I was going to be.
Really?
Yeah. Up until about 16. I mean, I was going to go to Texas A&M, be an Aggie, and be a veterinarian. Huh. I still might be. It's not too late.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Keep adding careers
to
it.
I mean, so, and anyway, but then Randy, when I was in high school drama, and the teacher and I didn't get along at all.
Uh-huh.
And Randy, they were coming through casting for the Last Picture Show at the colleges. Randy was at University of Houston, and that's where Mr. Pickett was too. Oh. And he got a part. And then that movie came out a year later, and in the meantime, Peter Bogdanovich, the director, had Randy come out to L.A. and do a small part in What's Up, Doc?
Wow.
And, he stayed. And it was I had an example that, these things can, really happen. By this time, I didn't know I was, besides being a veterinarian, I thought maybe I'll be a forest ranger or something like that. Huh. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Huh.
But then I got into Mr. Pickett's class at U of H. And within a week, I knew what I wanted to do with my life. That's a gift for somebody 18, 19 years old. And it's because he presented acting as, it was like psychology, what makes people tick, which I found really interesting.
Wow.
And it's really because of him, I think, more than anything, that I, decided that's what I want to do.
Do you remember the moment that it clicked for you? Like it's like, huh? Like was it?
It was the very first class. The very first class where what really explained. He didn't like the term method, but it was. I guess it was a method. It was just basically a study of observing life, and then figuring out why somebody on the outside there's got to be something on the inside that makes them that way.
So when you started pursuing it, what was the moment where somebody first noticed like the value in what you did, and you felt like kind of that discovery kind of moment?
Well, I got out to LA and I worked, was in plays in University of Houston. I was there for 2.5 years. A degree in drama was not going to do me anything. Mm-hmm. So I went out there in 1975. I was almost 21. I sent out my picture and the so-called resume to
invented things
to every agency in town. Screen Actors Guild had a list of the agencies. I sent that and didn't even hear back from anybody. And so I started in Variety and the Hollywood Reporter. In the back, there would be a section called Films in the Future about what was going to be going, which were Go movies, and they'd list who the director was, and they'd list who the casting director was. And the casting director, so I would just call the casting directors of all those movies and ask for a basic interview, not for that movie, but just anything, a general interview. And 9 of them would say no, and 1 would say yes. And so first interview I had, I basically kind of looked at my shoes and didn't know what to say. And so I got better and better at doing interviews, And then one of those, after about 4 months of that, one of those casting directors called it an agent who had turned me down already. And that's how I got an agent. And then about 4 months later, got a job, 9/30/55. It was about the day James D. died, directed by James Bridges. And then I did a couple of drive-in movies, about a year later, and then along came Breaking Away, and that was about 4 years in to being there. And
that director had a pretty big impact on you, I heard.
Oh, huge.
Like that's where you really kind of tapped into acting.
Yeah. And at the same time that I went in to see Peter Yates.
Yeah.
I was in the process of auditioning for the Dukes of Hazzard.
Those two together, huh?
Yeah. And
John Schneider was in my very first movie, so it all goes back to Dukes of Hazzard.
In fact, I just saw John a couple of weeks ago.
I love it.
And it was, well, what do you know? They offered me the Dukes of Hazzard there, and was in with Peter Yates, and I said, I'd really like to do this, but I'm being offered this like series, and it's and so I'm sorry, and I was on my way out, and he got in the doorway, and he said, "You listen to me, young man. You need to do this movie. You need to do it."
Wow.
And he taught all 4 of us, me, Dennis Christopher, and Danny, and Jackie Earl Haley. He taught us film acting. Right there. He was a great father figure to me, and. After that movie came out, I couldn't believe it. We went to opening night, and there was a line around the block at the theater. Wow. I don't know how audiences, they smell things. Just like with our, I can only imagine. And after that, things got easier. I didn't have to audition so much. I started getting offers.
I find it really kind of fascinating, kind of like those pivotal moments where you could have chosen to go one way or the other. And like the completely different career that might have been going a completely different direction.
Yeah.
And choosing what you did and becoming a movie.
Maybe turning down Dukes of Hazzard was a mistake.
When you made that choice to do movies, and then all of a sudden you're a prominent movie star. You do the right stuff, and there's, all of a sudden you're kind of a known commodity brand. What were some of the early challenges that came with the notoriety and the fame of going from being a kid in Houston to all of a sudden being, number 1 on call sheet on a big movies.
Yeah, it's you learn failure, from just watching people around you and stuff like because that's what you get mostly as an actor is or whatever. But people don't teach you how to be a success really because it's kind of a rarer thing, and I don't think I handled it too well at the beginning.
How old were you when it really kind of
I
took
remember
off?
it was after the Breaking Away came out, and I was in New York for something, and some lady in a pharmacy drugstore with two kids recognized me and started, following me up and down the aisles. It was really uncomfortable, that was my first taste of that. And then, it kind of grew and grew to the time that I was doing like Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yep.
You can call it your 15 minutes or whatever, but there was 500 teenagers outside my trailer, rocking my trailer. And I had to have a highway patrol escort me to the set and, to ripping my shirt off and stuff like that. And, people coming at you and you don't know if they have a weapon or
Right.
whatever.
Makes you a little paranoid.
It gets well. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
It at first, especially with that kind of heat that was around me, and then of course I was on cocaine too, so that ramps up.
Yeah, that does.
Real
Totally
really
get that.
good because that's kind of was not a good answer, but I guess that was the way of kind of filling up that space. That. I was always kind of looking for something to fill up that hole that, because even, when you become a success, that doesn't really fill up that hole. I mean, the only thing you've got is the only thing that fills up that hole that we all have inside us because we're trying to measure up, to seeking after something you think is going to have all the answers in life for you. And so, you get drugs are a way of kind of like filling that hole. Of course, they never work. They work for the first 5 minutes, but then
After that. I mean, the thing that's fascinating and also a little bit disheartening is that idea of feeling like once you make it, then everything will be okay. I think it's kind of the American kind of sales pitch.
Yeah.
But then when you do make it and you realize how fleeting those moments of success are, and it's cool for a second, but it doesn't fill the hole.
Yeah. Like the joy is in actually doing it. When you're actually doing it. I mean, that's the way I look as far as success now. After that, it's you have no control over it, doing a part in a movie or whatever. And, nobody remembers it anyway. I mean, I ask people, hey, do you know who Tyrone Power is? No. Well, he was the Tom Cruise of the 40s, but okay. It's like there is no
complete side note. Tyrone Power, when my grandfather received the Medal of Honor, he was the pilot that piloted my grandfather's brother from Guam to see him in the hospital.
Oh, really?
He was in the Air Force. It was Tyrone Power. So I know who Tyrone Power is.
Okay.
Nobody else does.
For a different reason.
Nobody else does.
Yeah.
For you, I think the thing that's really exciting for you is like, I'm going through the airport the other day, and I look up on the shelf and I see this People magazine, and the cover has you on it with Faith, Love, and Second Chances.
Yeah.
And I got a smile ear to ear because I've watched a lot of that going on in you, over the past few years. Talk to me a little bit about like what you've kind of discovered about yourself, your faith, what really matters, and kind of reconnecting with that. Especially, I know your wife Laura has been a big part of that. What does the idea of second chances and faith mean to you at this point?
Oh, well, a lot more. I mean, second chances, I'd say like fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth chances sometimes in a lot of ways. Well, I've already talked about cocaine and back then. I was always a seeker, though. I was, I loved church as a boy and Sunday school, and then I got to be about 12, 13, and I got disillusioned with what I call churchianity or whatever, and it was that life was not playing out what they were saying in church. Even the people that were saying it, I got into all kinds of things to, fill that hole, whether it be relationships, whether it be drugs, whether it be success, none of them really got there. And it got to the point that I had a band back in the 80s, and we had a concert at the Hollywood Palace and the record companies were there, and we got a record deal that very night, and we broke up in the dressing room after the show.
You fulfilled all the cliches in one night.
We did.
That's so great.
Just that movie, The Commitments. We were broken up, and went home, and I had we broke up because of me.
Oh.
Because I was, I wasn't there. I wasn't present, and my voice wasn't there because of my lifestyle and stuff. And I went home, and I had one of those white light experiences. With coke, I'd been like screaming at God, basically, to help me get off this stuff. I'll never do it again, I swear. And then the next day, about 4:00, I'd be right back there. I'd go to work, and I'd drew a line to go to work. And it was just an awful thing. And but at this night, I had what I call a white light experience. I saw myself dead or in jail or losing everything that I had.
Wow.
It was very real to me. So I checked myself into rehab.
Wow.
And
it takes a lot of courage.
Well, it was back before they had swimming pools and room service. It was the basement of, St. John's Hospital.
Wow.
And so I was there for 30 days, and I got it. And then, got out. And that's when the real problem started, because it was, really, it destroys your nervous system, cocaine. And So I was really kind of grinding my teeth to do everything I could to stay away from it. And was going to meetings, back then, which were basically Alcohol Anonymous meetings. And I just did everything they said. And which, now in AA, they said, you have a spiritual problem is really what it is. And that's true.
Yeah.
That's actually true. But I started meditating again, and I went back and read the Bible cover to cover.
Wow.
I'd done it when I was 20, and now I'm like 38, and I read it cover to cover again.
Huh.
And I read the Dhammapada, I read the Bhagavad Gita, and I read the Quran. And then I came back and read the Bible again, and it was the red words of Jesus. That's what really struck me. Were very real to me, was what Jesus said and what Jesus did. And that was the start of my personal relationship.
I love that.
Jesus.
I love that. For me, like, the thing I like about you, and we had a lot of cool conversations while we were making Imagine, and we've had over the years since becoming friends, just about faith in general. And the thing I like about your faith is it reminds me a lot of kind of a Johnny Cash kind of faith. It's got the humanity and the rough edges to it, but it's very sincere and very authentic and very both things. It's blue collar. And I remember us talking after Imagine just about that journey that you went on around the world to try to study all the other religions. And when you came back to the red letters of Jesus. And it's like the conclusions that all those things were pointing to the same kind of creator God that people really want to know, but it really is about God sending Jesus to kind of explain how he wants to, his path to him. And it's really about what are you going to do with that? And that's really where kind of you're forced to kind of decide what to do with the red letters. There's something really cool about that.
Yeah, that's it exactly. I mean, they all point at the same thing.
Yep.
That which has no words, which is God. Jesus actually has the answers to all that. It's, that's then, but I'd heard about having, my mother used to tell me having a personal relationship with, Jesus. I don't know, Mom, and how do you explain that, the 2 billion Chinese that are, are they going to go to hell? Because, and, getting into kind of like these dead end arguments or whatever. But it was.
You're good at those.
Yeah. The Earth is only 5,000 years old. And what about the dinosaurs? Well, but none of that matters. It's I came to know what having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ was. And, like any relationship, it's something that grows and grows and grows. It sometimes feels distant, comes back. It's, at the same time, it's who I am.
I love that. You seem to be, we've been friends for about 6 years now and done a couple movies together. We're going to do a lot more. But you seem to be at a place where there's a lot of harmony between those portions of your life, whether it's, your relationship with your wife, your kids, your faith, and your art, like with your music and your acting and producing. It seems like, you really have kind of found this cool new season of your life.
It's been the easiest, most gratifying period of my life, actually. Happiest. You experience the wonderful feeling of being alive, which was another way of, Jesus said, kingdom of heaven is spread out on the earth and men do not see it. I think Jesus actually is in his message, besides heaven, he came to tell us how to have heaven on earth.
For you, creatively, I mean, I've always been fascinated that I think, in the career path, in the kind of short-sighted, there's all these moments we experience that we think that this is the moment I'm going to hold on to and remember from my career. And it's more the test of time that reveals like what things have you done over your body of work that have impact or that have a special place in your memory. Like you've done a lot of iconic roles from, The Rookie, to The Parent Trap, to, there's all these movies that you've done that are beloved by audiences. What are the moments in your career that have been like for you that you kind of go back to with fondness in your memories?
Well, the first one is The Right Stuff because it was so much a part of my boyhood.
Yeah. Houston.
I grew up in Houston. They rolled first grade. They rolled in the television set with Shepard going up to orbit, and the original 7 astronauts. Gordo Cooper was my favorite. He was the youngest.
Wow.
And then cut to 28, and they're the novel comes out. Read the novel. Zip zap, just like that. And Gordo was a great character. I wanted to, gosh, if I ever make a movie, I would love to play Gordo Cooper. And what do you know? They're making a movie of it. And
it's awesome.
And went in and I got it. I couldn't believe I got it.
Yeah.
And then it was 9 months to shoot it. And it was like, I didn't want it to end. And Chuck Yeager was on the set every day.
Man.
And I got lo and behold, Gordo Cooper lived 3 miles from me
No way.
in the valley in LA. And I was the only one that got in touch with one of the astronauts, our astronauts, and we became good friends.
Huh.
And he turned me on to Bud Wallen Aviation over in Van Nuys, and I got
That's
my
pretty strong.
pilot's license and
Wow.
learned to fly from. While we were making the movie, I had to do that on the sly.
That wasn't on the insurance rider?
That wasn't on the insurance rider. In fact,
Oh my gosh, man.
Phil Kaufman and Caleb Dashnell, I mean, they finally found out that I was, kind of learning to fly, but so we had this scene where Gordo's going to go up in a plane, and we're shooting in an airport, and so, they were in the back with a camera, the director and the cinematographer, and I was just supposed to taxi down the taxiway. They were getting shots of that. So I just went onto the runway and took off. And that's how they found out that I was.
That's awesome.
That I was a pilot.
That's awesome. It's better to be a pilot than be an actor that thinks that they're a pilot.
Yeah.
That's great. That's amazing. I love it. One of the things that has fascinated me as well is I worked with John Voight, and Voight is just a legend. And
I worked with him too. And gosh, what an actor!
Oh, just
actor.
I would watch the other actors forget their lines because they'd just be kind of leaning in to what he was going to do next. But he played Bear Bryant in one of our films, and after it was over, he called me late one night. He's like, "Andy, it's Voight," and I'm like, "Yeah, what you need, John?" He's like, "Am I any good in the picture? If I'm no good, just cut me out. And I'm like, John, if you want to know if you're any good, just go ask your Oscar. You're amazing. And so and I think then he called me back another time, and he's like, "Is this Andy Erwin?" And I was like, "Yeah." John, he's like, "Is this Andy Erwin, the movie mogul?" I'm like, I don't know, John. I'm just faking it till I make it. He's like, "That's it." And he's like, "That's the secret." And I said, "I just don't want him to see I'm a fraud." He's like, "Never let him see. Never let him see."
Right.
And the idea of that imposter syndrome that never goes away.
Oh yeah, it never goes away. I mean, it was Jack Lemmon. They asked him. He said, "What's the secret of acting?" He says, "Well, it's about getting to the truth. If you can be honest and tell the truth, then that's the key. And if you can fake that, you've really got something." But
That's amazing.
you always feel like a little bit of an imposter because we're playing games. We're playing we're film acting and make believe. We're making something out of nothing. And certainly we're always trying to tell the truth. And what we do is important to people because it's stories. People need stories. The same thing as sitting around the fire when we were tribal and telling stories and what was an oral history. And now it's these movies have an effect on people. They certainly have had an effect on me long before I was an actor. Doesn't mean that you're something important, or anything like that. It's believe in your own PR or whatever. That it's a job like anything else. For me, it's a really great job. It's a fantastic work if you can get it. It really is. It's to create something out of nothing, and you go from one to the next. But you asked me before, but the right stuff, and certainly like Parent Trap, which is like, that was the first movie after I got clean of cocaine. Was about 6 years later. And
wow.
I thought once I got.
That was the first one. Is that what?
Well,
you
that wasn't
the
first one. No, I made a couple of other ones after
that.
Just
those are significant.
boom. I thought things would get better, but things got worse.
Wow.
That's kind of the way God works. You got to be careful about what you ask God for because He just might give it to you.
Huh.
But He'll give it to you in some way that you didn't expect, or that's like wait a minute, I don't know if I signed up for this, and it just got harder for me. getting jobs, and I waited for a year, and which turned into 2, and then. But along came. It was about 5-6 years later. Along came Parent Trap, and they kind of give me. I'd been playing like Bad Boys and stuff like that, and it was it was the first time I was like kind of playing a father, and it was a classic. It was just I love the movie for that.
My kids have recently discovered that movie on Disney watching it, and like it reminded me like that was a period of time where you became America's dad for a season.
Well,
like it was like
I guess so. I mean, I tell those people that are 30 something that I was your babysitter because when you went to VHS,
it's not creepy at all.
All the parents they put that thing on for the 40th time. I babysit them, and of course Lindsay too, and but the Rookie came along, and that movie was about second chances, and it really reflected my life at the time.
It was a special one,
and that's special. I can only imagine is very special to me. I mean, because I began to see the effect that it had on people, and very surprising me the people that I wouldn't expect it to have that effect on. And it's reached a lot of people with a message in that film. That it broke down walls. That movie did.
I think it was interesting because we were part of a moment in time that was kind of bigger than all of us. But faith when it came to movies had been associated with kind of very fringe on the outside, and there was a moment in time where we kind of there's a group of people that I think Imagine was a part of that conversation where faith became a very legitimized kind of subject to kind of delve into with story.
Yeah,
and it seems like it's now it's more of a non-issue.
Like I think it began with The Shack.
Yep.
Soul Surfer to a certain extent.
Yeah. Soul Surfer was a part of that.
And I remember we were doing the read-through for Soul Surfer. Everybody's there in Hawaii, and the family's there, in Hamilton's, and it was like all of a sudden the studio wanted to take out all the references to Jesus in it, and they were about to looked over at the family, and they were, and I said, well, if you're going to do that, I'm not in the movie anymore because this is their story.
Wow, man,
this is their story, not just a story, and I'm not going to be part of that because you're taking out all the authenticity of these people. You're taking out their reason for living. And misrepresented, and then it was back in, but
magically,
but it's people at that point were embarrassed, kind of myself included, to hesitant, embarrassed to really talk about your faith. Like, I'd wear a cross, and my uncle would say, "Why don't you wear that thing on the outside?" He's right. Where you're hiding, and but it took movies like I Can Only Imagine, Jesus Revolution. It's like that's kind of the culmination of exactly where we're going. Those movies.
Yep.
But and the production values them. American Underdog, and it becomes if that's a part of somebody's life, you're telling an authentic story. You're not just inserting faith into it. It's part of the authentic story.
I think a big part of that equation has been like the real life stories, because if it's somebody's experience, it doesn't feel like propaganda. It feels like something somebody's lived in.
Yeah.
And it kind of gives permission. I think there's been a discovery process. And then I think the other part of that has been like, I think you're a big part of that journey as well, is it took, legitimate, well-respected actors to finally step in and say, you know what, let's up the game. and the product got better. I think a lot because of the people in front of the camera, and
also the people behind the camera, the production values got better. I mean, the directing and the way things they just got real professional, and you guys were such a huge part of that, coming along and making that.
I'll pay you later for that one.
Yeah, well, it's the truth.
Yeah,
it's the truth. I think one of the first that I can remember was the Shack that actually,
Yep.
kind of brought things into mainstream, into that level.
Yep.
And so,
it's been a fun journey. I mean, it's been exciting to be a part of and to kind of, legitimize something and start a conversation. For you, like a few last questions, we'll wrap up. For you, like, what stories early on, like what film really inspired you early on? Not that you were in, but that you saw. Because I remember like Steven Spielberg talked about the first time he saw The Greatest Show on Earth. He saw that film and he was like, that's what I want to do. And then he saw Lawrence of Arabia and almost quit because he was like, I can't never do that. That's too hard.
Well, Lawrence of Arabia was the movie that I saw.
Really?
It's just as far as it sticks with me as far as it's so long too, but it's such, I remember seeing it as a kid, and if it's on, I cannot not watch it. And it comes back to the script with that.
Huh.
There's not a line in there that is superfluous.
Yep.
It's almost a perfect movie.
Yep.
And it's
so cinematic too.
It's so cinematic. And so I think it's my favorite movie. Period.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I wanted to be an actor.
Huh.
Marlon Brando, of course, was another big reason. Because when I was at U of H and stuff like it, it was Brando. I think he'd just come back with The Godfather.
Yep.
And whatever. So everybody wanted to be Brando.
Yeah, he was. He iconic roles for sure. Like for you, like why is story so important? Like what makes story so important?
Because I think that's why people go to the movies. In the end, people don't go to see things. People go to the movies to feel things. And that's what you're left with. And if the story is not there, I kind of feel like I got cheated, in a way, or wasted my time. I'd go to the movies when I was a kid, and I would walk out of there feeling like I was the protagonist. I was John Wayne or Jimmy Stewart or, or whoever it was. I was Toby Tyler. And, they inspire. They do much more than inform. They make you feel things.
You've worked with a lot of filmmakers, and there's a lot that's changed of the industry over the years. But in your opinion, what makes a really good storyteller? Like, what is it? What qualities make a good storyteller?
The best is a storyteller is one who can bring the conflict up to a point where a character has two impossible choices. It's the lady or the tiger.
Huh.
It's, so that makes one think, what would I do?
Huh.
With two impossible choices.
Huh.
If I push the button, I will start World War III. But if I don't push the button, it'll, the United States is going down.
Yeah.
So it's, what do you do with that, right?
Huh.
that's storytelling to me.
Stakes.
Stakes, yeah. You raise the stakes,
Huh.
and that could be very small.
I love that.
You know,
What you've been acting for almost 50 years. I mean, even though you're perpetually 22 years old, you've been acting almost 50 years. Like, what keeps you doing this storytelling?
I love it now more than I did then, because now I'm not trying to get anywhere with it, as far as to be, big, be the further my success or whatever. That's not really what it's all about. It's I do the things that appeal to me, that I want to do, that I find interesting to do, and so I'm very lucky. I'm lucky to be around, and you get older, you get different roles. That's the great thing about this business. You're not playing the same role over and over again. It changes with life, and I just love working with people, creating something out of nothing.
I love it.
It's really quite a challenge, and it's fun.
That's awesome. For me as a young filmmaker, it was a pivotal moment for our development to work with you, because I learned as much as a director. It's just something about working with a seasoned actor, that you can lean into them and really kind of ask them what they see. And for me as a young filmmaker, discovering things with you was so amazing that it was a real affirming moment for us of oh, we can do this job. And
it was the same way for me too.
Really?
I learned a lot from working with you guys. It was just for one thing, you were so open to let's see what happens. You were open to the unknown. We were we come up against something that was just how do we get from here to there? We're already here. And then it was, whether it was a blocking thing or whatever, an improv deal, or it's an action or whatever. It was, you guys were so willing. It was a freedom in that. And it gave it kind of the first time that I had felt that kind of freedom in working was with you guys.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was. I think we all fed off each other.
We did, and I think that's why, once there's a shorthand, it's well, let's just get the band back together and do it again. So that's why, when we started talking about American Underdog, it was the easiest pitch in the world. So I was like, Dennis, I'll let you play the wife if you want. Just put on a dress, whatever you want. What role do you want? And I sent you a highlight reel of Dick Vermeil, and I just said, I think it's special when, I think it's special when an icon plays an icon. And I said, this is the role I was thinking, but you just name it. And there's just such a shorthand, and you just looked at the list of characters. You're like, I want this one. And same goes with other movies that we've got coming up, like Fearless and others. It's just we just have this shorthand where it's let's just look for an excuse to work together because there's already a trust.
Yeah.
So,
big or small, please ask me, because I want to be a part of anything.
Well,
you do, both of you guys, and your company. It's just you guys. You're so talented, and you listen to your audiences.
Thanks,
you do. You know your audiences, and that's a big deal. Is because I've seen directors and worked with the directors who start to either get mad at their audience or they just kind of lose track.
Yep.
Of it, and forget who you're making this for.
Yep.
Making it for an audience, and I think there's a responsibility that goes with that. Because and just ask me anytime, please.
Come on,
you're
man.
my good luck charm.
Yeah. Good. So, hey, same here. You are Michael Caine, so it's working. Don't fix it if it ain't broke. All right, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you being on the show.
It's really great to be here. Thanks, Andy.
All right, buddy. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Storytellers. Loved having our guest, Dennis Quaid, be in the studio with us. I just love spending time with this guy. He's got so many great stories, and dang, that smile can light up a room. He, I think it was refreshing for me. I think the thing that I like is, with storytellers and actors and artists that have been in the game for a long time, and to realize, there's this certain type that it's still just, they have the joy that we get to create and play pretend for a living. And that storyteller spirit and that idea that the imposter syndrome never goes away, but just kind of that privilege that, that we get to create stuff like this for a living. I love that about Dennis. I have a great respect for him. And to find out that he could have been Luke Duke on Dukes of Hazzard. So it was pretty cool. I want to say thank you for listening and watching. God bless.
The Storytellers is a Kingdom Story Company production. It is produced by Nick Carey with production assistance from Ben and Justin Bailey. Our executive producers are Kevin Downs and Brandon Gregory. Social media for the show is run by the team at Troops and Allies, and our music is Twisted Rooster by Tommy Profit. Special thanks to Jaron Weatherly, Evan Johnston, and our entire team at Kingdom Story Company. We have so many exciting guests coming up this season. To ensure you don't miss any of them, subscribe to The Storytellers for free on YouTube at Kingdom Story Company or wherever you listen to podcasts. For exclusive first looks at our upcoming films, behind-the-scenes content, and invitations to advanced screenings, join the conversation as a Kingdom Insider at kingdomstorycompany.com and follow us at Kingdom Story Company across all platforms. As always, thanks for joining Andrew Erwin and his friends on The Storytellers.